Welcome back to LBG Reviews. Before we dive into things, please be sure to like and subscribe, as it really does help out. And one final thing. While yes, this week we'll be discussing Baldur's Gate 3, I should note there's a lot of depth to this game, and as a result, don't expect this to be a full, in-depth discussion and review of everything that you can expect to find in Baldur's Gate 3. That is not what my channel is about, because if that were the case, every single one of my videos would be well over several hours long. So as a result, I will only be mentioning things that I think are pertinent to mention, or things that I found were funny, or just interesting quirks within the game within my short playtime. As well as, of course, talking about those accessibility features. Let's see here. When was Baldur's Gate released? Baldur's Gate 3 was released on August 3rd, 2023 by Larian Studios, or Larian. Baldur's Gate 3 is essentially an adaptation of Dungeons and Dragons, a tabletop role-playing game, into a video game. For any of you who are familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, Baldur's Gate 3 attempts to replicate similar things to how you would experience them at the tabletop, such as having digital dice being rolled for various skill checks, and as well as perception checks. Basically, there's many actions that, well, yes, a lot of them are typical video game, simple number crunching. There's also quite a bit of okay, you try to persuade the guard. Alright, roll a persuasion check. You need this number to succeed, and if you manage to hit that number or get higher, then you manage to pass through. The opening of the game is part of why I've decided to not go super in-depth with Baldur's Gate 3. There are tons of different races you could choose from. There are tons of different classes to choose from. Tons of different proficiencies and other customization options that will impact your gameplay in some way. And rather than digging into the nitty-gritty about what all of them mean and what impact they will have on your gameplay experience, there are loads of other videos about that kind of stuff if you want to know that before diving into the game. So I decided, let's not talk about that. I don't want to have to sit here for several hours discussing every aspect of the game. Besides, there are a few constants, regardless of what decisions you make. One of the many constants is, well, yeah, it's probably for the best that you create a custom character. You also could elect to play as one of the many different companions that you could bring along your journey and just play through as them. So, like, as an example, there's a wizard named Gale that can be added to your party early on. You could elect to just play the game as Gale, rather than having to create your own character and to choose their own backstory, etc. But beyond that, the other constant within the game is that you start off on a Mind Flayer ship. There are some details important to know about Mind Flayers in correlation to the story of the game that I will dip into now. Mind Flayers are essentially like a combination between aliens and kind of some interpretations of like zombies, and as well as a bit of like psychic Pokemon in Pokemon, in that essentially they are cephalopod-headed aliens that consume brains to survive, as well as turning other sentient beings into Mind Flayers to reproduce. So with that basic and shoddy explanation about what a Mind Flayer is, the game starts off with a Mind Flayer inserting a maggot into your eye. the game explains that if this maggot is not removed within a few days, that your character will transform into a mind flayer. So then you, alongside...
This is LBG from the editing room. In the now cut clip, I mistakenly referred to the first companion as an orc. She is actually of a race known as the Gek. There is far too much info to go into about the race, but I wanted to correct my ignorance before I even posted the video.
But basically, you end up on a mind flayer ship. You explore with your companions, because there's also an optional companion named Shadowheart that you can save within the ship. You end up basically causing the ship to crash, and then after the ship crashes, you begin exploring around, trying to find someone to help you remove the maggot from your eye. But the maggot also gives you crazy powers to basically bend other people's wills or dip into their mind to see some of their intentions. And that's all well and good. Like, the story is really fascinating. The combat is smooth once you wrap your head around it. But what I will say in terms of the accessibility features is that there are quite a bit of them. One that you will notice within the gameplay that you are watching is that I have checked off the nudity option, so that way it won't show nudity, because we're on YouTube and I don't really want to get a content guideline strike. You can adjust text size, whether that's subtitles or overhead subtitles, select the subtitles. So as an example, the former would be subtitles within cutscenes or dialogue conversations, whereas overhead subtitles are subtitles that are there to indicate who's speaking and what they're saying when you're just out exploring, because various characters could have conversations with each other. There are various difficulty levels, so that way if you've got some disabilities or some impairments that make it harder to play, you can make the experience at least slightly easier for you to experience for yourself. You can also adjust whether your party members or yourself or even enemies have either an outline to indicate whether they're friend or foe, or a circle on the ground to do so as well. And while it's not listed within the accessibility features menu, you can also stop your minimap from rotating. And that's really it for the accessibility features. Not a whole lot, but at least in terms of the nudity one, I do appreciate that one, because otherwise I would not have covered this game at all. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's dive into some of those other stories that I wanted to tell. So, early on in the game, you can add a member to your party named Asterion. Asterion is a lesser vampire, if I recall correctly, basically meaning that he needs to drink human blood in order to do better and feel better. Like, he consumes, within the game, he mentions that he consumes animal blood to just get on and survive, but he needs human blood to actually do better in combat. But when I first bought Baldur's Gate 3, my mother was ill at the time, and just to give her some company for a little while, I went downstairs and I played Baldur's Gate 3 while she watched. And within the first while of you bringing Asterion into your party, when you go to bed, you will wake up and find him sucking your blood. You have many options as to what to do, and there's one pathway that if you follow it, where you can willingly let Asterion drink your blood. My mother, even though she was ill, she found that very shocking, very gross, She was very creeped out by it. And it was just very funny to see her like that. Sorry about that, Mom. I know you're watching this video, but hey, it was pretty funny to see you freaking out about that. And then, likewise, I also found Gale, a wizard who needs to absorb the magic out of magical items. And my mother, when she saw Gale, she was not very trusting of him. And just my mom's reaction to a lot of what she saw within the game was pretty funny. Yeah. And honestly, yeah, that's about it. That's all I wanted to talk about with Baldur's Gate 3. I know it might not feel like a lot was discussed, but honestly, there's too much to talk about within a single video. But anyways, so next week is the second Friday of the month of November. So as a result, we will be doing a retrospective video on my Power Wash Simulator video. So look forward to that if you want to hear my thoughts about how I've improved since that video. See you guys then. Bye.